Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have 5 all new Dollar Tree fall DIYs for you. I had such a great time putting these together and I really hope you enjoy today's video. For this DIY, I wanted to take the pumpkin wreath form from the Dollar Tree. This is a classic. I've decorated this lots of different ways, but I wanted to get creative and figure out a new way to make a pumpkin wreath. And I'm going to use paper bags from the Dollar Tree. What I want to do is I want to do like a crinkled paper, like almost like a basket woven look for this. And I want it to be big strips of paper. So I thought paper to bags from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. So I just cut the bottom off of some bags to get us started. And I'm going to go ahead and just make a good pile of them. I'll cut more as I go. And then I want them to be strips. So I'm going to also cut the sides off of them. That way it gets rid of the side parts without having to open them. Like this, that just gives me just plain panels. I want them to be large, almost the size of the lunch bag. And I will put them together to make like a caning material to go through the pumpkin. So for the first one, I'm going to go ahead. I was thinking how I could attach the paper to each other. I thought about using a glue stick, but I decided hot glue would probably be easier. And it worked really well and it didn't interfere with anything. And of course it dried really fast. So I'm just going to start by gluing them end to end like this. My first piece is going to be kind of small because I'm going to be doing one of the side pieces here of the pumpkin. So I want to cover all of the vertical parts of the pumpkin and the border first before I do the woven effect, like a basket. So I just crinkle the paper up and I'm going to do half of the pumpkin here at a time. I just put hot glue onto the metal wire, slightly wrapping that around as I, crinkle it up. And I love this like paper look. Wadding the paper up is definitely necessary for this to get the look that you're going to want. Once I get to the end here, I have just enough to kind of overlap the end. I want to cover as much as I can, so I wanted to cover that entire wire. So that's going to be one of my vertical parts of the basket weave. I didn't want the wire to show, so that is why I definitely wanted to do these parts of the pumpkin too. So I went ahead and glued 2 more of the bag pieces together, crinkled that up, and I'm going to add it to this one. As you can see, the pieces don't have to be very long to do the little vertical parts of the pumpkin. And same thing, I just hot glue that to the wire, just crinkling that, wrapping it around, and at the end also doing the same. Now, I went back and forth whether or not I should leave it the paper bag material, but I do end up painting it. I really love how this turned out. For the third one, I do the same thing. I just put 2 of the bag pieces together, hot gluing that on, wrapping that around, and finishing this off. I'm going to continue that all the way across the pumpkin until all of the side up and down pieces are covered. And I don't know if you're thinking, you can't do an outdoor wreath with paper, but this is exactly where I'm making this wreath for my front door. And I will show you how I go about sealing this project, so hopefully it will hold up outdoors. So I have all of the up and down parts of the pumpkin here, but I also have to do the border of the pumpkin. I don't want any of the wire showing. So instead of doing just 2 pieces, this time I did 3 to give me a nice long piece here to weave. And I'm going to start right here at the pumpkin stem. And as you can see, I'm wrapping it around the wire from the top. That way it will cover everything. It will still look nice and it will go with the same aesthetic as the crinkled bag look. And this piece lasts all the way to about here. And I'm just going to continue gluing the bags together until I get all the way around the diameter of the pumpkin. And I do plan to use the paper bags for the pumpkin stem too. I think this crinkled look will look really good for that. So just 2 more bags here, I think will finish this part off. I'm going to start right here, and then When I have too much material here at the end, I might as well start covering the pumpkin stem here, but I definitely plan to make that a lot longer. Now we can begin the weaving process. So what I'm going to do is glue at least 3 bags together. This is going to be for the bottom there, so it doesn't have to be super long. I glue them together, crinkle it up, and I overlap the sides. So I'm coming from the top and overlapping, and I do that on all of the side pieces just for uniformity. And then I'm just actually weave this through the different parts of the pumpkin till I get to the other side. And again, on this side, I also go from the top and glue that over the side. I'm going to do the same thing here for the next piece, but this time I'm going to do 4 of the bags. And as you can see, I don't want any holes in the bags. The top of the lunch bags have a little notch. I just make sure to overlap it enough so you don't see that. And it was the seams really blend in really nicely with this project. They're not super noticeable. But this time, when I wove it through, I did the opposite pattern. So if I went above before, I went under, but again, still going over the top of the side pieces like that. I don't want it to be a super tight weave. I want there to be space in between, but I definitely want to cover most of the pumpkin with this weave pattern. And so again, I did a total of 4 bags here, hot gluing it on top, and then again, alternating. This row is going to be the same as I did the first one. And just crinkling that as I go, cutting off the excess paper there at the end. I don't want any excess material if I can have that. And so that's like half of the pumpkin woven. I'm just going to continue to glue some bags together and finish off the weaving process on this pumpkin. So I think 2 more rows here should finish this off. And, you know, it's supposed to look a little bit irregular with all of the paper being wadded up, but I do plan to paint this, and I was really happy with how it turned out. I don't care if a little of the brown will show through since it is all folded up like that, but as long as most of it's going to get painted, I'm going to be happy with it. Now for the pumpkin stem, I'm going to do the same thing. I glued 2 of the bags together. I'm going to start right here, overlapping the wire there, and I of course want my pumpkin stem to be way longer to go to scale with this really large pumpkin wreath. I did another 2 pieces together and glued that side by side there on the pumpkin stem. And I think the 2 of them together, if I kind of wind them together, will be the proper thickness here for the pumpkin stem. And I wanted to kind of go off to the side like that. So I just secured mine with hot glue and trimmed off some excess paper. I do have a little spot here that you can see the wire, so I went ahead and covered that with paper as well. But basically, all of our paper here is done. I glued the stem down a little bit so it would not come all the way out, and just did a little bit of patching here at the pumpkin stem to hopefully provide some strength to that. The paper does have enough structure for the pumpkin stem to stand up on its own. Now, I do want to protect that pumpkin stem when I go to paint it. I don't want that to be the color, so I just put a paper bag over that and use some painter's tape so that part doesn't get painted. And I'm going to spray paint it. I thought that would be the easiest way. I found this great paint. It's called Rustic Orange from Lowe's, and it is a satin, which I didn't really want, but I'll show you how I get rid of the gloss on this because I don't want shiny paper. I start here at the bottom, spray painting that, trying to like get all of the paper elements that you can see from the front or the sides. I don't really care about the back. I'm not going to be painting back there. And I just kind of do 1 coat all over, a nice heavy coat as well though. And I just do all of the parts of the paper bag. And I'm really glad that I decided to paint it. Of course, a pumpkin should be orange, and so this is definitely going to be a lot of classic fall Dollar Tree DIYs today. I did notice that you could see a little bit of the brown bag there from the front, so I just went over it with a little bit more spray paint and I let it sit overnight because I really wanted that paint to set up and I didn't want it to be sticky. Now, I went ahead and removed the paper bag here, and I didn't have much overspray, a little bit I was able to trim off there on my pumpkin stem. But what I want to do now is I want to seal it to make it, you know, more weatherproof to go outdoors. I'm going to use a matte finish sealer, and hopefully this will take all the glossiness out of the satin paint too. First, I went ahead and sealed the pumpkin stem, which I hadn't painted. And I just went over the front and the back with that. But I also want to use that matte finish sealer to seal the entire pumpkin. This thing is so big. I had this large box and it was still kind of hard. But basically, I went over the entire pumpkin with one coat of the sealer, making sure to really get it covered. And I really think that that is going to help keep it dry outside on my front door. I do have a little bit of protection. One weird thing that happened though is the unfinished part here on the paper bag for the stem, it left this white residue, which is kind of strange. I don't know why. It didn't do that at all for the painted part. So I think I'm going to have to paint the stem. I actually had some khaki spray paint. So I think that this is going to work and it's going to be about the same color. So I just protected my pumpkin there and spray painted the pumpkin stem, the khaki, so you don't see that weird white residue that the sealant left. I really don't know why that happened. It must have been some kind of chemical reaction with the bag. And then I went over it and sealed it once it was dry. And now our pumpkin is all painted. And as you can see, it's not shiny anymore. That matte sealer really did the job. I got the exact look of orange I was going for. Now I thought about doing a bow for the top, but I thought fall leaves would be really cute. These burlap leaves from the Dollar Tree are really large, but this is a really large wreath, so I think that this will look really cute together. I think I'll do one of the burlap maple leaves here first, and just wiring that around with the wire that's already on there, the top of the pumpkin. And then I thought it would be pretty to mix up some of these like red and orange, like oak leaves. Again, they're all wired, so it's really easy to attach these to the top, but I think a total of 3 of them will look really good. And it's very to scale with the size of this pumpkin. So I just attached those to the top and we're almost done. I just need a way to hang it. I kind of closed everything in with paper, so I do have to get access here for that metal pumpkin stem that was part of the wreath form so that I can use some twine to make a hanger for this. And I want to make this like long enough to go over my wreath hanger for my front door. I absolutely love how this DIY turned out. It's exactly what I was envisioning. And who knew you could make a wreath with paper bags? Let me show you how it turned out. Here it is. If you know anything about these pumpkin wreath forms from the Dollar Tree, you kind of know the scale of these. They're really nice wreath, and I think this is going to look so cute on my front door for fall. Are you decorating for fall yet? I know it's not technically fall yet, but I know a lot of my friends are decorating for fall. It's everybody's favorite season, it seems. If you're enjoying today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more DIYs. For this fall DIY, I got this great sign from the Dollar Tree. These are so cute this year. It's a pick your own pumpkin sign. And I also got some of the fabric garland for fall from the Dollar Tree. I thought I could combine the two together to make something really special. The sign itself is adorable. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't have any glitter. It did have this little raffia bow that was really kind of flat and smashed, probably from shipping. So what I did was I used a little heat to remove it, but I'm basically going to clean it up, retie it, and add it back to the pumpkin because I did like it. I just didn't want it to look so flat. So I just removed any of the remaining glue residue and simply unwound it and retied this to make it look a little bit better. What I was thinking is that I could use that rag garland as like a frame for the sign to really make it special. So here is our little raffia bow. Let's go ahead and attach it. I went ahead and cut this one down to make it even and reattached it. It looks so much better now. I'm glad that I gave it a quick little update, but otherwise the sign is perfect. Now, at first I was thinking maybe I could just take the garland and attach it to either the back or the sides of the sign to kind of frame it out. But then I was concerned on how exactly I would attach it. I didn't want to block all of the rag garland. And there is quite a bit. I think it's like 6 feet long, this rag garland from the Dollar Tree, but I love the colors. I love that there's green on this one. So I was thinking I could probably find a better way to frame this out. And then I was thinking, you know, I probably could make a wreath with this. There probably is enough just with one piece to make a simple wreath to frame it out. So I'm going to use one of these, the brass wreath rings from the Dollar Tree, the larger one. And I think it's going to be the perfect size for this. So I went ahead and just removed the hanger from the sign because I'm going to have to do a different hanger now with that wreath there, and I can hang the sign down in the middle like this. So I wasn't sure if this was going to be long enough because, when you're doing a wreath, you always need more than you think. But since this is just a single wire wreath, it really didn't take very much, and there was plenty on this one piece of garland if you can only find one. I just unwound the end and simply tied that to the wreath form. Now, I was thinking I could just kind of knot this off on here and start winding it around. One thing that I noticed though is that the twine is a little slippery, and so it just kind of goes around and around the wreath form as I'm wrapping it. So I'm going to have to secure it a little bit more than just the twine that was on there because, again, it was not wrapping. So no big deal. We'll just use a couple of zip ties on this to keep everything in place. I really like these tiny ones from the hardware section at Dollar Tree. And I just went ahead and zip tied this. This will keep it in place so I can kind of pull and tug on it as I wrap my entire wreath form with this cute rag garland. I really like this rag garland. It is definitely new this year. The only thing I didn't like about it is it did seem to have a lot of strings on it from the fabric fraying a little bit. They probably could have cut the fabric a little bit better, but it is a rag garland, so I guess it is supposed to look a little bit crazy and ragged like that. I got all the way around here. I think this is going to be the perfect amount. And so once I get to the end, I just took the twine like before, and I'm going to tie that to the wreath form. I can kind of spread it out a little bit and make sure that it's even everywhere, but I think that this is going to be a really cute frame for that sign. They had several different varieties of the little fuzzy fall signs. They also had ones with like tan colors, and I really like the classic pumpkin and orange. I thought that would be really cute. So here it is, our frame for this. I think that's so cute and festive. I don't really want to block the writing on it, so I'm going to be hanging the wreath a little bit behind the sign, and I'm going to tie it on. So I just took some twine and just using the existing hangers there on the fall sign, I'm just going to tie that off, and then I can use that twine to tie it to the wreath form. That way I can kind of adjust it exactly how I want it. I just went ahead and tied this around, and I did tie it a couple of times to kind of raise it a little bit so it would hang properly in the wreath form. You have to kind of test it out to see exactly where you're going to want it to be. But this is such a fun way of decorating with these cute fall signs from the Dollar Tree and making them a little extra special. I know the fabric garland came in another color variety, I think too. I really like the green in that. I always love decorating with green for fall. So I just went ahead and tied that on. And again, adjusting it a little bit, and I left it long enough where I could use that same twine to make a hanger. So before it came with the orange and white wood beads on the hanger for the sign, so they match perfectly. So I might as well just go ahead and use these as well. I just went ahead and strung some on both sides, trying to repeat the same pattern here and keep it even. I want about the same amount of wood beads on each side, and these are a nice small wood bead. They're not too crazy. I'm going to go add, I'm not going to fill it up completely because I need a little bit of room for the wreath form to be there. But I did add quite a few of the wood beads to it. And then I put it together and just tied it together here to make a hanger to be able to hang everything at once. And this is how it turned out, our little pumpkin sign wreath. I think it's so cute. I love the little fuzzy pumpkin there on the front. That is a fun surprise. And then the rag garland, I think, really adds to it. Here's a little close-up view of how this project turned out. I love all of the colors on this, and it's a nice size sign that you can use for a wall hanging, for wall decor, or you could also use it for a wreath for your front door. Very cute, and I'm really glad I put those two items together. For this fall DIY, I got some of the pumpkin stacks. These are the ones that are $1.50 right now at Dollar Tree, and I got the ones that are 3 different colors. So white, like a golden color, and an orange for the bottom. I want to make mine look like a scarecrow. So I start here at the bottom. I mix some navy blue acrylic paint with some white, and I want it to look like the scarecrow is wearing blue jeans. I'm not necessarily going to do overalls. I think just blue jeans will be fine. And so I want to combine a couple navy colors together. I really like using the little sponge stencil daubers like this to paint plastic items like this especially. I'm going to be using this indoors, so I'm not worried about the paint coming off of this. But on the large stackable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, I have had issues with rain and the acrylic paint outside. So if you're going to put yours outside, you might want to seal it after you paint yours. I just went over all of it with that great navy color. It did a good job covering up that bright orange here with one coat of paint. And then I added another color. This one was called Too Blue. It's very similar to the one that I mixed, but a little bit different shade of blue. And I just kind of daubed that all over with a smaller little stencil dauber to give it like that mottled look that blue jeans have. And I really like the texture that gave to it. I'm not going to be doing like legs or anything like that. We're just going to have the bottom pumpkin represent blue jeans for the Scarecrow. And I think that looks pretty good. I like the mottled appearance of it. For the middle part of the Scarecrow, the middle pumpkin, we're going to have that be the shirt. Now, I decided to give mine arms. I've seen lots of people making scarecrows out of their stacking pumpkins, but nobody's giving them arms. So what I'm going to do is use my hot craft knife. This holds like razor blades. It's like the hot craft knife. I got this on Amazon, and I just removed the blades. It makes the perfect holes in plastic items from the Dollar Tree. So I just poked a hole in each side, and I'm just going to use a wood dowel from the Dollar Tree for the Scarecrow arms. Now, I wanted my Scarecrow to be wearing a plaid shirt, of course, for fall. So I just took one of these plaid napkins from the Dollar Tree, and we are going to decoupage the second pumpkin. And so I just went ahead and started tearing strips. I tore the end off, so I would have like the ragged edges that blend so much easier when you do decoupage. And I went ahead and shredded the entire napkin with these long pieces like this. And one napkin should be plenty to do the shirt here for this pumpkin. I'm just going to go over the pumpkin with a very thin coat of Mod Podge. And I can do a couple here at a time. I just start here at the lip. I don't want to interfere with that because I'm going to need that to be able to pop all the pumpkins together. And then just cut off the excess material here. I guess napkin material, and then I can use that same piece for a second row. I am going to slightly overlap it, and it is a thin napkin being from Dollar Tree, and it's only one layer now. So since the middle pumpkin was orange, it does make the shirt look like an orange plaid, but I kind of like that for fall, so I'm going to embrace it. And even though I've poked the holes here in the side, I just went ahead and decoupaged the napkin all the way around, covering the holes. I can always go and cut that excess material out of there once I get it covered. The top pumpkin is going to be the head of the Scarecrow, and I added so many little fun details to this project. I really love how he turned out. Now, if you wanted to do this project with the large stackable pumpkins that are $7 at the Dollar Tree right now, I think it would be really cute too. You could get really creative. But this is a nice smaller DIY that I can actually sit like on a table or counter, and it's not going to take up too much space like the large stackable ones are actually pretty big. And I just keep working my way around. If I have any areas that need to be patched like that, I can do that because the plaid design is pretty forgiving, and I'm not trying to line anything up. I just want it to look like it is a plaid shirt when I am done with it. And as you can see, I'm also kind of putting the excess napkin material underneath that little ledge there at the top. So again, that it doesn't interfere with attaching the head of the Scarecrow pumpkin to this DIY. So I have this completely covered, and I think I have done a good job of gluing it down. I'm going to seal that a little bit, and this is what it looks like when it is dry. I just went in with a little screwdriver, poked some holes here for the hole that I had put on each side. It's pretty easy to find to get rid of the excess material there, and then I can add the dowel for Scarecrow arms. I'm just using the one piece to go all the way through it like that. I don't want my arms to slide around though, so since I can get on the inside of the pumpkin, I'm going to go ahead and secure the dowel there with some hot glue so it won't slide around. Now I have to do sleeves for the Scarecrow arm, so I'm going to use that same napkin material to be able to do that. I don't want him to have scrawny arms though, like the wood dowel, so I'm going to have to actually find some material to make that a little bit more plush or stuffed too. So I just cut out some of that, and then I thought the automotive towel from the Dollar Tree might be really good for that. I wouldn't have the individual polyfill, so I'm going to try that. It's soft and fluffy like polyfill too, and I can cut it down to size. So I cut down a little piece of it and then measure how wide my arm is. And I'm going to cut a piece that I can wrap around it. And I do the same thing here for both sides, just cutting a piece. And I do want it to be soft and fluffy, so I do use the finish seam here on the inside, hot gluing that to the wooden dowel like that. And I do plan to make it look like the sleeves are stuffed with hay too for the Scarecrow effect. I just wrapped this piece all the way around to give me a little bit more of a significant arm here for our Scarecrow, so it's not quite so skinny. And then I will use the napkin material to cover that to make it look like a plaid shirt for fall. I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side, just hot gluing that to the dowel and wrapping that around, securing it with hot glue. And I liked that method. It worked really well for polyfill. Now, before I attach the sleeves, I'm going to go ahead and add the hay effect. I'm just going to use some Dollar Tree raffia, and I'm just going to cut down some individual pieces that can stick out of the side of the arm, and I'm just going to attach it to that same material, just kind of hot gluing one piece on at a time like that. But I can do quite a bit before the hot glue starts to set up. And I just went all the way around, just making that as full and kind of crazy looking as I can, so that will peek out at the sides of the Scarecrow's shirt. I also kind of reinforced that a little bit with a little bit of twine, wrapping that around and tying that off. In case my hot glue doesn't hold up there, I don't want it to fall out. I cut another little bunch down here for the other side, and we're going to attach that as well. Now, I was trying to decide how I could kind of decoupage that napkin material onto that fluffy fabric. I thought Mod Podge probably wouldn't be my best bet for that. So I actually end up using a little hot glue to get us started, but I do go back and seal it kind of from the top of it to attach it to that fluffy material, and it seemed to work pretty well. So we have the raffia on both sides, and I just need to cut the napkin down here to size to make a little sleeve. And I need a little bit of overlap, but not much. So just cutting that down to size, and I just hot glued this here to the bottom of the Scarecrow arm. And I want that to overlap where I've tied that off, and overlap any of the fabric where you can really only see the raffia there at the end. And I just wrapped that around, overlapping this and hot gluing this here. And then I just kind of cut off the excess material, and that seemed to work pretty well. But one thing to note though, since I am going over white now instead of orange like on the pumpkin, it does look a different color, and it hasn't been sealed yet. So I am going to tint my Mod Podge to seal that, to kind of make everything coordinate. I also tied off the end of the sleeve with some twine just to make sure that everything kind of stays in place there. And I'm going to do the same thing here on my other sleeve for the Scarecrow. There was definitely a lot of steps on this DIY, but I absolutely love how he turned out. He's so sweet. So I did the same thing here, just hot gluing the napkin on. And now that I have both sleeves on, I went ahead and tied this one off too. The twine actually adds a little rustic touch to it too, but I also wanted to hide that white material inside. I didn't want you to be able to see any of that. I just want you to be able to see the raffia there on the side. So you can see the color difference there between the sleeves and the shirt. So I'm going to tint my Mod Podge to seal it. So I added some red pumpkin paint, it was the color, with some Mod Podge to tint it. And I'm going to go over and seal that material now. And then I just kind of used a baby wipe to blend that in so it's not too heavy, kind of thin it out a little bit. And I did the same thing here. Now it does make it look like an orange plaid now, But I'm also going to have to seal the pumpkin itself too to try to make my oranges kind of match a little bit better. I do want it to all look like one fall plaid shirt. And I'm glad I decided to use the plaid napkins. I think the decoupage of that would be easier than trying to attach plaid fabric from the Dollar Tree. But again, I went ahead and sealed the rest of the pumpkin too so that everything coordinates really well. And that is a nice color for a Scarecrow shirt. And again, I just kind of blended it there with a baby wipe to spread that out. Now for the top pumpkin of our pumpkin stack, it's kind of small, so you don't have a lot of room to work with. I'm going to draw on a scarecrow face. I just did 2 teardrop eyes, all in black. I can always go back and add some white features to this. And then I'm going to do a little orange scarecrow nose, which is just like a rounded triangle. I do that with an orange paint pen. And then go back in and do a squiggly line smile here with some stitching for my scarecrow mouth. Very classic looking. And then I can add the details. Once I got it dried, I did a little eye shine there and like a little white of the eye for the eyes to give it a little character. And then I also kind of outlined the scarecrow nose, added some stitching to that as well, and some eyelashes here kind of going out to one side. Really simple, but I love how it turned out. I think it's really cute for a little scarecrow face. But our scarecrow is definitely going to need some hair as well. We're also going to be DIYing him a hat. So again, I take some raffia from the Dollar Tree and I cut here a little batch that can kind of go down on both sides like that, where I can kind of bundle it in the middle. So I take some twine and just kind of tie that off. So we have one piece here with like raffia hair kind of coming out both sides. I do want it to look a little all over the place, different lengths and stuff like that to make it look ragged like a scarecrow. I attached my first bundle there with hot glue, and I still have the twine on there so I can add more hair as well. So I cut out another little bunch of raffia here, and I'm going to tie that on with that same twine here to add a little bit more hair. We can start building out the scarecrow hair here in the back. I don't really need to remove the pumpkin stem or anything. I'm going to be putting a hat over that, but I do need some bangs. So I'm going to do this bundle kind of sideways like this, so it's a little shorter in the front to look like bangs so it doesn't cover up the entire face of the scarecrow. And then for the scarecrow hat, I thought burlap would be great for that. So this is some of the Dollar Tree burlap. I'm just going to cut out a little piece here that we can use for a hat. I'm going to do a really simple scarecrow hat, like a little pointy hat here. And that can also have like the raffia hair coming out from the sides. Now, it's not a very large head for this, so I definitely need a tiny little hat here. It's not going to be super big, but I just cut a little piece down and start wrapping that around how I'm going to want it to look. I fold up one piece there to be like the brim of the hat, and I start making it into like a cone shape. So I'm going to start hot gluing it down in place and kind of shaping it as I go. Just a really quick no-sew scarecrow hat, which is my favorite. But again, folding it there is pretty important there for the brim of the hat. And I just glued it there at the bottom. And I just kind of keep shaping it as I go. I do want it to be a cone shape. I did find that it was a little bit longer than I needed it to be. And so I'm going to trim off a little bit of the fabric here. You could make it like a straight across hat, or you can make it a pointy hat. Scarecrows have both. I thought a pointy hat would be cute, so I just made it have that cone shape and attached it with hot glue, trying to close it up a little bit, but leaving a little bit of room there on the top for some hair. The next thing I add is a little sunflower for the hat, one of the wired sunflowers from the Dollar Tree, and I just glued that right there on his little burlap hat, and I think he's looking really cute. I thought I could also use the burlap for some patches on the blue jeans and the shirt. So I think 3 patches would be really cute. So I just took a little strip of burlap here and I'm just going to cut out 3 little square pieces. That way I can add some little patches. You could also use the plaid napkin if you wanted. This is kind of a dark blue material though, so I thought the burlap patches might look a little bit better since that napkin was really thin. And I'm going to glue like just a patch here on each side with a hot glue, 2 down on the blue jeans, and 1 on this shirt. Super cute. I think the shirt needs buttons too, though, like a little button down flannel. So I used some of my Dollar Tree buttons. I picked out 3 of the brown ones. I noticed most of those are black. And they're different sizes, but I kind of like that. I'm going to hot glue those down here, the front of the shirt, for another fun detail to our little scarecrow. It's so much fun. You can really add lots of materials to this and put it together how you would like. Now it's time to pop it together. I went ahead and popped the middle section on, and then we're going to do the top pumpkin as well. But I did think he needed maybe a little bit more hay details. So I took some of the raffia and I tied it around between the 2 bottom pumpkins like that. I'm just going to knot it, and that gives it a fun little straw look down here at the bottom as well. That looks really cute. And then I thought we could also add some of the raffia to make it look like straw coming from the scarecrow head here out of the neck. So what I did was I cut some of the raffia down into little tiny pieces, added some hot glue here around the neck, and I'm just going to do it on the front, kind of around the sides here to make it look like straw is coming from his head. I did think about painting the top pumpkin instead of just leaving it white, but I didn't. I wanted it to be a little bit different color than the burlap hat for a little bit of contrast. So I think white is just fine for that. I'm also going to add some raffia coming out of the top of his hat, like his hat is completely filled with straw as well. And then his hair is a little patchy, so I decided to add some more raffia here and there, just hot gluing that there on the inside of the hat until his hair is a little bit fuller here on the back. Just lots of little details to this DIY, but in the end, they paid off because he is so adorable. I really love how he turned out. So this is what he looks like so far. He's really cute, but I had some more ideas. I thought maybe we could have like a little black crow like landing on his arm. So I wanted something very simple. I just used some black felt and a chalk marker and sketched out a simple bird. I do want it to have kind of a tail here like a crow though. So I think that shape would work. Just something very simple like the head, the beak, and a little bit of tail feathers there. I didn't really use a stencil at all. I just cut that down, and I think that's going to be fine. I am going to have to cut out a second one here because I do want to stuff it a little bit and make it a little bit more 3D since the scarecrow is as well. So I have 2 little pieces here like that. I can hide the chalky area here in the middle. I attached one end with hot glue like that, and I'm going to stuff it with some cotton balls, a great source for a tiny bit of polyfill, and you can get those from the Dollar Tree as well. I just stuff a little bit of the stuffing inside, and then I'm going to finish gluing our little black crow together, and that's going to be a fun detail that we could add there to the scarecrow arm. I'm thinking like on his left arm, about right here. And I almost did it at an angle a little bit. I just glued that on to his arm. And this is how he is looking. I think he's so cute. I did think that his sunflower was too small though for his hat. I wanted a little bit more of a punch, so I switched it out to a little bit larger sunflower, also the wired sunflowers from the Dollar Tree to finish it off. And I think he's perfect now. Let me give you a little preview of how our little scarecrow pumpkin stack turned out. Isn't he so sweet? He has so many fun details. All of the raffia straw, the little crow, the patches on his blue jeans, his plaid shirt. I had so much fun putting this one together, and I think he turned out pretty cute. What do you guys think about this one? For this DIY, I wanted to see if I could take one of the bicycle wreaths from the Dollar Tree and try to make it look like an old wagon wheel. Now I need something for the wheel part, and I didn't have anything wood that would make a good wheel here. So I'm actually going to use one of these placemats that I got on clearance at Target. And as you can see, there is like a little seam here on the back where it is 2 layers and it is sewn, and it is the perfect size for this wreath form. So I just went in and cut it. It's like a seagrass material, and I thought I could always stain this just like I do the wood as well. And it actually worked out pretty well there for the wheel. because it's often hard to find something to make the wheel with out of these bicycle wreath forms. They can be a little bit challenging. It did have a little bit of a rough edge, but I think that'll be okay. I did trim it up a little bit to make it look cleaner, but it's the perfect size. A little placemat charger here to do that. I know they also have different varieties of these at Dollar General as well. That could work as well. For the center, I'm going to use the little wood square from the Dollar Tree. And for the spokes, I'm going to use popsicle sticks. That wood circle I got in the little wood circle 3-packs they have at Crafter Square, where they have 3 different sizes of circles. And then I'm going to use a popsicle stick here for each one of the spokes. I'm going to hot glue this down. So this one is going to be, they're just long enough to be able to reach from one to the other, but I don't want them to overlap. So I did the first one a little taller towards a circle, and I did the ones next to it going down a little bit, so that I kept that alternating pattern where I kind of did one about halfway, and then I did one touching the outside rim so that they wouldn't overlap as I hot glue those all the way around. I thought popsicle sticks would be perfect for this. It's going to give me that wood look that I wanted for my old wagon wheel. I do want to make sure that they stay attached though. So I also went ahead and added more hot glue to both sides of the wire on the back of it to reinforce this to make it a little bit more solid. And I think that it looks way better than just the wire spokes from the bicycle wreath. So this is what it looks like so far. I'm going to add the little wood circle in the middle like that. And it barely covers up the end of the popsicle sticks. And then I also have the outer edge of the wheel that we're going to be using that great material. I wanted to make a wagon wheel wreath with this. And so I think that that material will be great. I just hot glued the wood circle here in the middle. And then I'm also going to go ahead and add this. I'm going to stain everything to give it a warmer color. And I was really impressed with this material of the placemat. It stained really well, just like the wood. And so it worked out just how I had envisioned. I just hot glued the mat all the way around. At first, I was going to use some of the adhesive cork from the Dollar Tree for the outer part of the tire, but my Cricut decided to really act up and it did not cut it properly. And so I had to find something else to use for this material. But that's another option. And then I just went in with some antique wax by Waverly that I mixed together with water. I wasn't sure how much stain this would take. I did find that the placemat stained a little bit lighter than the wood did. And so I did have to darken it up a little bit because it looks dark now, but when it started to dry, it got a little bit lighter. So I added a little bit more antique wax by Waverly to the water to make it a little bit darker stain, and I went over all of the popsicle sticks and the wood circle in the middle. I started drying it and noticed that the placemat was drying a little bit lighter than I would like. So I'm going to go in with that darker brown color that we mixed together with the antique wax by Waverly and go over it with another coat here on the outer edge. It's not a perfect circle, but it's pretty close, and I think it does look like a wagon wheel in the end. I really love how this turned out. I'm going to reinforce the outer ring here by adding more hot glue to the wire here to just make the glue a little bit stronger to make sure everything stays in place, since I can kind of get to the back of it very easily as well. And here is our little wagon wheel. We just need to decorate it now. I'm going to make a hanger with some twine. I just tie this around, and I knot it first because I noticed that it kind of wanted to pull in that like caning material a little bit, and I didn't want it to do too much. So I also secured it with a little hot glue here on the back, so that would make that hanger a little bit stronger without destroying our tire there. And then for the screws, I found these stickers from the Dollar Tree that look like little metal screws. I thought these would be perfect. We can have these little bolts going around our little wagon wheel. They are stickers, but I decided to hot glue them on to make them a little bit stronger. And I think I will skip 3 with the larger one because there's not a lot of those. And then there is like a medium size one too that I can alternate with. And just a fun idea, you could also use like the little button stickers from the Dollar Tree if you wanted to paint those as well. And now it's time to decorate our wreath. I wanted to do very traditional colors, fall leaves, pumpkins, flowers. This is a bundle of fall leaves that I got from the Dollar Tree that has really pretty colors. They have the orange and red, but they also have like this goldish and green material. And so I just went ahead and removed all of them from a bunch here. And I'm going to decorate like the bottom left corner of this wreath. I decided it would look a little bit better if they were just individual leaves, so I actually just cut them down to size. And if you find that your leaves from the Dollar Tree are all bent up, it's really easy to give them a quick iron. If you have a blow dryer or a heat gun like I do, you can make them flatten out pretty well. I noticed the yellow one kind of had a square cutout that didn't get any red paint on all of mine. And so I'm going to kind of put those on the bottom where I could overlap another leaf on top of it like that to kind of hide that little imperfection in the pattern. But what I wanted to do was just use all these colors. I think they're so pretty. And I'm just hot gluing them around to make it look like a pile of leaves for the first effect. I'm either gluing them to the popsicle sticks or to the placemat that's there on the outer edge. And I just kind of scatter those around until I'm happy with it. Again, my yellow and red ones, I did have to kind of hide that spot on all of them so that you couldn't see it. I don't know why they were painted like that. They must have not went through the machine properly when they were manufacturing those. For fall flowers, I found these great little orange flowers from the Dollar Tree. They're like little tiny mums, and the colors are perfect. I'm just going to cut them down a little bit, the little stem, and just hot glue those into the leaves. I want them kind of poking out of the leaves every now and then. I think they're really pretty though, so I'm going to try to add as many of these as I can. The colors match so well with those fall leaves, and it was really the look I was going for with this fall wreath. Little wagon wheel wreath. I think it's so fun. And I was checking online for inspiration. I couldn't find anybody that had really made a good wagon wheel wreath from using the bike wreath form from the Dollar Tree. Most people just leave it with the wire outer rim, but I thought it definitely needed something larger because a wagon wheel is definitely going to have the wheel part of it too. And the placemat worked really well for that. I decided to add a few more fall leaves here to that to make it a little bit wider, the display, but really trying to stick to that one corner. These fall leaves have some fall berries on them that I thought would be really cute too. So I'm going to glue those into the fall leaves as well, just kind of scattering them out, different size bunches. Sometimes these really get scuffed up, so make sure you look at these before you buy them at Dollar Tree, especially with their floral prices being higher. For the pumpkins, I'm going to use these bowl fillers that I found at Dollar General. These are only $1, and look how well they're painted. The colors are perfect. I'm going to glue it orange, kind of a golden color here. And I thought about the green pumpkin, but I didn't think that really matched that well. So I think I'll use another one of the golden pumpkins here and attach a total of 3. Now to make it look like a wagon wheel, I'm going to use 2 of the little wood rings from the Dollar Tree to make like a little, I don't even know what they call that, like a little place for the axle of the wheel. And I had 2 different sizes, so I thought that would work well. I'm just going to paint them black. I think that would be a good color for this. A little bit of contrast, but it's going to make the middle of it look not so plain and more like the wagon wheel I was going for. Since it's kind of rounded, I went ahead and painted both sides of these to make sure that you can't see any of the raw wood there in the end. And I'm also going to do the little bolts here on the wagon wheel. I'm going to paint them black as well to kind of make them correspond. Once everything was dry, I just hot glued these on. I did the larger ring first here, and then I'm going to glue the other ring right inside of it. If you only have one, I think that does add a fun touch, but if you have two different sizes like this, I definitely recommend adding both because it gives you a really fun effect there for the wagon wheel. And here it is, our wagon wheel wreath for fall. I think it's really whimsical and fun. It could be a really fun wall hanging for fall, or you could use it as a wreath for your front door. It's definitely pretty enough with all of the fall florals. They all go so nicely together, and I really love those little pumpkins from Dollar General. I love that they're only $1. But this is how this one turned out. For this fall DIY, I wanted to do something fun with one of these candles that I found from the Dollar Tree. And the pumpkin I actually got at Walmart. I got it online. I'll try to link it in today's video. It was a big package of lots of pumpkins because the larger pumpkins at the Dollar Tree don't seem like they're really worth what they're charging for. So I wanted to find another source. I ordered them online and had them shipped to my house. Now, the bottom part of this candle, I thought I could just maybe get the glue hot and peel that off because this was going to get in the way of making a pumpkin candle holder. So I just busted mine off with a pair of pliers and it took care of that problem. I was also wondering if I could just pop the little battery operated light off the bottom of it so I could decorate this how I like. It's got like a glitter material inside. I think these were originally for Valentine's Day. Maybe they didn't sell well. I think people really didn't know what to do with them. I went into the flame with a little yellow. I'm also going to add some orange to that to make it look like a flame. And I'm going to use some of this Rust-Oleum frosted glass, spraying that on the inside of the candle to get a frosted look. So I can still light it up. It'll be bright, but it's not going to have the glitter that it had before. So I kind of like how that turned out. I did a couple coats of it to make sure that it was kind of cloudy. It doesn't really get cloudy until you dry it. And then I just need to reattach this little battery operated light here to the bottom. It was kind of hot glued in before. And so that is what I'm going to do to reattach it. I just needed the bottom of this to all be the same width so I could have an opening where I can pull the candle in and out of the pumpkin so I can turn it on and off because the switch is on the bottom. Now, this is the pumpkin that we're using. It's painted very nicely. I don't really need to do anything to it. Removing the stem was a little tricky. They really had that glued in there. So I wanted to make sure I didn't tear any of the orange part of the pumpkin where I didn't want that to be torn there at the top because I'm going to leave the pumpkin as is. I just lay the little battery operated candle on top and kind of sketch out the hole that I need to cut in this. It's a pretty nice foam pumpkin. I was able to cut like the plastic coating off here and to cut through the styrofoam just using a razor blade and working my way around here. I don't need it to be too deep, but I want it to look nice for a candle holder for like a centerpiece is what I was thinking with this one. And so once I got that off, I just kind of peeled off the foam that I had cut there in the top to form like a little cavity here for the candle to sit in, and so that you won't be able to see how this thing works, the switch or anything like that, and something for it to sit in a little bit. I decided it wasn't quite deep enough, so I did go in and cut it a little bit more. I probably went down about an inch here on the top of the foam pumpkin. And you could really do this too with some of the Dollar Tree pumpkins as well. But for the prices they were charging, I definitely started looking other places for some fall pumpkins. To decorate it, I thought fall leaves would be perfect. So I'm going to use some orange and yellow fall leaves. These are like just a leaf bunch from the Dollar Tree. And they have the maple leaves on them in two different colors, the orange and red. And then the other one is a garland that I got from the Dollar Tree that has like the oak leaf shape here. So I think the contrast will be pretty and I can overlap them. I'm going to have the maple leaves be on top, and I'm just going to glue this all the way around the top of the pumpkin to give it a fun fall effect. And it really kind of helps hide and blend the top there where I cut it out for the candle. But I'm making sure to leave the opening completely open so that I'm able to put the candle in and out of it. And I decided to use like all of the colors that kind of came with it, the two different colors of the maple leaf, and then I used two of the different like yellow and red colors here from the garland and just kind of made those work. They were a little longer, so I just kind of trimmed the ends of them again to make sure that I leave the opening completely open here. And I just kind of crisscrossed the maple leaves in like a little plus pattern there, and the same thing with the oak leaves. Now all I have to do is put the candle inside. This DIY was so easy. It's really easy to turn the candle on and off. The last thing I wanted to do was to make it look like a flame. And so I just used my orange paint pen and kind of sketched the texture of the flame on there. So it kind of looks like a fire here with the yellow and orange, and it goes great with the fall colors of the leaves and the pumpkin down below. This was such an easy DIY to make and a fun way to use one of those battery operated candles from the Dollar Tree. This is how it turned out. This is what it looks like during the daytime lit up. Super cute. I love the warm colors of the light in there as well. And the frosting, I'm really kind of glad I did get rid of the glitter that was inside of that because I didn't really want that for this DIY. But I think this would make a really great centerpiece. The candle inside is pretty bright. This is what it looks like lit up at night. Very warm colors. And I think it's just a really fun idea for a fall centerpiece. I tried to stick with like really traditional fall DIYs today, fall colors and fall items. And I really had a great time putting these DIYs together for you today. And it's time for the final reveal. Please let me know which DIY was your favorite down in the comments below. You can find me at Crafty Beach on YouTube on all social media. And this is also the QR code to my Buy Me a Coffee. If you would like to give a tip to my channel, I would really appreciate it. But I hope you enjoy the final reveal.
Open up the window. I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like a giant ember. Everything is turning into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low, dancing through the last days of September. Since I was a little child, every year for as long as I remember, all the leaves were running wild, going all the way until November. Turn the world around us into gold. When the autumn leaves are playing chase, it puts a smile up on my face. They leave their branches one by one and whirl around there just for fun. Some are faster, some are slow, and some are high and some are low.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's video. That always helps my videos do better here on YouTube. I'd also like to thank all of my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you so much to Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Marin Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Donna Tanner, Kim Rogers, Maria Cruz Pagan, Pal Puppy Life, Renee Albanese, Lori Hollingsworth, Mindy Hepp, and Jenny. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate you. If you would like to become a Crafty Beach Bum member, you can get early ad-free access to my content here on YouTube, a badge next to your name when you comment down below, and a shout out in every video. And you can join on your phone or your computer. We would also love to see your DIYs. Make sure to share your DIYs with us in our private Facebook group, always linked in the description of my video. I also have my Facebook page linked there, and I'm very active over on Facebook as well. If you would like more fall crafting inspiration, be sure to check out one of these DIY videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting for fall.